vulnerability, and of course the power of healing. Today's episode is called You Might Be the Problem. And no, that's not about blame. It's about being brave and of course looking inward. So we're going to have a look at radical accountability. We're going to look at what it means to recognize your own patterns and how trauma can shape your choices. And of course start rewriting the script for ourselves. Today I am blessed to be joined by Peter P., a member of NA who has walked through the fire, I think, of personal transformation. I'm so happy to have you here, Peter. Thank you so much. And of course, we know that NA is a community dedicated to supporting people on the path of healing and recovery. So let's get right into it. So to understand what it means to take accountability, we need to first talk about what it's like not to see the problem. Because sometimes we're the problem, but then we don't want to admit or acknowledge that we're the problem. And of course, you have to do very hard work and dig so deep to recognize this, right? So Peter, can you please take us back to the moment that you realized that you were struggling with something and that something in your life needed to change?
Funny enough, I'm 10 days short of 10 years today.
Congratulations.
I was an addict for 35 years. And it controlled my life completely. And I woke up one morning and I could not get out of bed without doing 2 lines in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'd survived a heart attack brought on by drug use, and that didn't stop me. But something just clicked inside my brain one morning. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is not living. I'm killing myself, and I'm destroying what's important to me, my family, my home. And I reached out. I reached out to somebody, and I went to a meeting. Now, I knew about NA. I'd started a meeting in Kempton Park about 1.5 years before. But it didn't keep me from going back to my old ways. And when I went into rehab, I realized that if I wanted to recover, if I wanted to get clean, I needed to do the work. I needed to put in the hard yards. It meant I had to look within myself, because my name is Peter and I'm an addict. Doesn't mean I'm a drug addict. I'm an addict. Because I've been addicted to more than one thing. I'm not just addicted to drugs. I've been addicted to alcohol. I could give you a list of things. And that's when I realized that my problem is me, the addict. Not the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, whatever went with it. It was me. I was the person who was destroying everything. And coming to that realization and realizing that the only person who can fix this is me. That took some serious soul searching. Because we as addicts, we like to control everything. We like to blame everybody else but ourselves. You know, it's not me. It's my dad's fault. You know, he was an abusive father. That's why I became an addict. No. Those were circumstances that allowed me to do the things I did. But if I look back at my behavior prior to starting with drugs and alcohol and everything, I was an addict before that. In my actions, I lied, I stole. This I did as a kid. These are not normal things. And this, I went far back to look at my part in this whole journey. And I realized there is only one person to blame. And that's the person looking back at me in the mirror. But then the hard work started. then the hard work started, because addicts and honesty is not something that goes together. You don't use those two in the same sentence. And I had to learn to get honest with myself. And that took some serious soul searching.
Wow, I mean, storytelling is so powerful, and what you're saying, I mean, even if it just reaches one person, it could change your life. So I do appreciate you getting into it. And just to dig a little bit deeper, I'd like to ask you, like, how did your past experiences, maybe trauma or instability or whatever you experienced as a child? Because personally, disclaimer, I'm not a professional, this is just a personal perspective. I don't believe in addiction, I believe in trauma, right? And those unhealed things sort of push us into behaviors that we wouldn't necessarily always choose if we didn't have that trauma. So what happened, do you think, that shaped these patterns that you found yourself repeating?
A lot of it comes from, how shall I put it, rebelling against a figure of authority, my father. My father was a policeman. Herein lies the problem. His father was an alcoholic who beat him, who beat his mother. So this is what he had to go on when he got married. So for him, it was nothing to hit me with a fist as a young child. So what do? As a young child, you don't have the ability to stand up for yourself. My mother did not have the strength to stand up to my father. So you act out. You lie. You steal. You do things which are not the norm, because you don't know you don't know how else to deal with it. You turn to alcohol. You turn to drugs to numb the pain. That is part of it. You use those to deal with low self-esteem, because you keep telling a child you're useless, eventually he'll believe he's useless.
And, during those moments that happened previously, just to marry the two, and then when you realized, okay, I might be the problem, how did that land with you emotionally?
That was wild. I had to accept my part in all of this, but at the same time, I realized that the only way I was going to fix this was dealing with the issues that I had. You cannot leave them unresolved. And I learned that the hard way 3 years ago when I tried to take my life. Because I put everything into helping others. I bent over backwards. I did myself short to help other people. I took on their problems. I took on their pain. But I forgot one very important rule: to look after number one. And who's number one? Me. I'm number one. Okay. If I can't look after myself, I can't look after anybody else. And I allowed all of that to build up in me to the point where I did try to take my life. But once again, I did the right thing, because I had the tools then to deal with these things. As I put myself into a hospital, so that I could get the healing, get what was necessary for me to sort myself out. And I take these things very seriously. I'm a firm believer that you need two things to recover. The first one is you need to learn to love yourself. Because as an addict, you do not love yourself. You hate yourself because you hate what you're doing. And if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. Now, if you can get that sorted and you can forgive yourself, because you can't change the past, you can't take it away, but forgive yourself, be gentle with yourself, love yourself. Once you can do these things with compassion, you can show that to the people around you. Then your actions have meaning. Because my family were not interested in sorry. Because sorry had no meaning and it had lost its meaning. My family wanted to see the change. They wanted to see a different person. And that is called living amends, which I do every day, even 10 years later. I still do this because that is what shows them that I am working on myself, that I am healing myself, that I'm sorting myself out. Today, I'm a respected member of my community. I'm not looked down upon anymore. My family love me. I have my wife, I have my son, I have a roof over my head, and I can give back what was given to me. And I can do it with a smile. I do it with love. Because I've got that in me. Because that what was given me, that what was taught to me by the people around me.
You know, that moment of realization can be so painful, but it's also, as you've beautifully described it, so powerful and so beautiful. You know, it's a real turning point. So I want to look at radical responsibility for your own healing. Like you said, you chose to book yourself into a hospital. You decided to love yourself. You had to make those choices for Peter. So what does radical accountability mean to you personally?
Not trying to shift blame. Owning what you've done. Be man enough to stand up and own what you've done. Don't try to sugarcoat it. One of the first things I learned when I came out of rehab was if you don't tell lies, nobody can catch you out on anything. 35 years of drug use has not done my brain much good. Okay, so my memory is not that great. But I can tell you this. If I don't lie, I don't have to remember stuff. I don't have to, because nobody can catch you out on anything.
You still have a sense of humor during all of this, okay?
You have to. You have to. I have. It's something that's come back into my life. Is my wife and I could laugh together. We could joke together. After 27 years of marriage, she married an addict without knowing she was marrying an addict. So I've had to be gentle with her. I've had to be gentle with my son. Just as I'm gentle with myself. Okay. But I realized that I had to put in the hard yards. And there also has to be consequences for my actions. If there's no consequences, this means nothing. So I know that if I mess up, I lose the roof over my head. I lose my family. The place where I run my home group meeting every week is a men's homeless shelter. That reminds me every week of what I'm looking at if I mess up. I have stark reminders in place because I was desperate enough to want recovery. I got to stay desperate enough to stay clean. Because if there isn't that, if there are no consequences, Why are you doing this? And this is unfortunately a problem we have today, where people are putting people in cotton wool. No, it's all right, hey? Don't worry, we'll sort you out. We'll buy you a new phone. We'll buy you a new computer. There's no consequences. And that is not healthy. As hard as what it is, as hard and as it's harsh. I mean, to tell somebody you cut your kid off is but it's what's needed sometimes. It's the only way you're going to save them.
Wow. I mean, I'm just so captivated by your story and so grateful to be learning from you in the process. What were some of the hardest patterns to recognize in yourself, and how did you unravel them?
I was very set in my ways. I was 34 when I got married, so I wasn't young anymore. I was very set in my ways. I'm an addict with OCD. It's my way or the highway. My family walked around on eggshells for years. Now I've got to allow them to be themselves without judging, without, that's not the way I do it. You've got to cut those things out. You've got to allow them to live. As much as they're allowing you to live and heal, you've got to do the same. Because they've got just as much trauma that they've suffered over the years of abuse that they've taken. And trust, to rebuild trust, is probably one of the hardest things to do. Because I robbed my own house twice. You understand the effect I've had on my family. So one of the things I did, which taught me responsibility and taught me to take responsibility for my actions, is I didn't carry a wallet for 3 years.
Wow. I mean, let's get into that a bit more. How did you make that choice?
I made it together with my wife.
Okay.
We sat down and I said, I can't be trusted with money. So I don't want money. You control the wallet. If she really needed something and she wasn't in a position to buy it, she would give me cash and I would go and buy it. And I'd come home with a slip and change every time. And that was me for 3 years. It took nothing away from me as a man, but it taught me responsibility. Today I can walk around with a wallet full of money, bank cards, credit cards, the whole 9 yards. But I've earned that right.
You did the hard work to be able to trust yourself again and allow other people to trust you. But you've mentioned something so vital, right? Is that you need to be gentle. You need to have forgiveness for yourself. So taking accountability really does not mean beating yourself up, right?
No.
I would like to talk a bit more about healing without shame and how compassion plays a role in that process. You have touched on it a little bit. I'd like to get a bit more into it. For people who are listening and, they feel stuck in cycles of self-sabotage, shame, embarrassment, what would you say helped you through and start?
I love this subject. Secrets kill. There's the first rule to understand. So, if you're holding secrets within you, that'll kill you eventually if you don't deal with it. Now, if you talk those secrets to a group of people and you're honest and you tell them, that secret no longer has power over you. You've taken that power that would have had over you away. As an example, my previous ward councillor where I live, him and I had huge fights because he was useless in my eyes. And he went and dug in my personal Facebook profile and found my stories about my addiction, my attempted suicide. And he tried to weaponize those things against me in the community. Unfortunately for him, the community already knew because I didn't hide anything.
Yes.
So it backfired. It backfired spectacularly. Because now the community were, but how can you do that to the man? He's working on changing himself, and you're trying to demonize him.
Yes.
Therein is the power that we have. Talk those things. Get them out of your system. Talk to somebody else. Because it then loses the power it has to take, to harm you.
I mean, you've spoken quite sternly on responsibility and accountability, and then you come with the same kind of passion regarding compassion. So how do you think we find the balance between the two?
That comes down to having balance in your life. And here is the problem with people who have an addictive personality, is the biggest thing they battle with is to find balance in their lives. And it took me a while, but I split my time. I have a third for my family, I have a third for my business life, and I have a third for my NA life. It's even amongst all of them. Because that teaches you how to organize things, get things. You need structure, you need discipline. If you don't have that, it's difficult. You need to have these things going for you. I have a whiteboard in my house that I put up when I came out of rehab the last time. And I would put up a list of a daily checklist of things I needed to accomplish every day. And I would tick them off as the day went by. This is how it works. You need to train your brain to have structure, to have things compartmentalized properly so that you don't overdo it on one or underdo it on one.
You know, you mentioned the community that you live in, you mentioned the family, you mentioned, various connections. And that points to such a strong point, is that nobody heals in isolation, right?
No.
Community, mentorship, safe spaces like NA make all the difference. I mean,
Correct.
being addicted to drugs for however many years, you had certain connections with certain people. How have your relationships and support systems, whether personal, professional, whatever you'd like to talk about, how has that shifted throughout your journey?
I have maintained a strong grounding with people in NA. I have a core group that have been there for almost 10 years because it's people I trust.
Yes.
Okay. My first sponsor I had for 6 years before he passed away from COVID. And it took me 2 years to find another sponsor.
Wow.
Because the point is, you build up a relationship, such a strong relationship, with people who understand your psyche, who understand how you think.
Yes.
My wife does not get involved in that. She knows that I have my way of doing things. And that she leaves me to do because she knows it keeps me where I need to be. And it gives her the husband she expects.
Wow.
So I have maintained strong ties in that respect. because these are things that you don't have in addiction. When you in the drug world, you don't have that. You have acquaintances. That's literally all they are.
I mean, I feel so grateful every time you answer, because I'm learning a lot too. And one thing that I've picked up is that accountability is not just a one-time thing. Like, I'm listening to things you do, the homeless shelter, the checklist, those day-to-day practices, so that you can look at change in face, right? So how do you, apart from, those visuals that you may need to stay on the path you're meant to be on, internally we are just human. How do you stay away from the shaming, the guilt, those normal negative feelings we feel as human beings? How do you stop them in their tracks?
So when I came back to the first 18 months, this program did not work for me. I white-knuckled the first 18 months of my recovery. And it was explained to me in very simple terms. You have neural pathways in your brain. I had a 6-lane highway that only had one destination, and that was using. That was my addiction. Now I had to change 35 years worth of thinking. So I had to relearn my brain, how to do things differently, how to handle things differently. And that is what taught me the art of looking after myself, and it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing. But I do a daily checklist in the evening when I'm in bed. How's my day? What have I done? What could I have done better? What could I have handled better? So I analyze these things, and I'm like, okay, maybe if you do this the next time this happens, it could turn out this way. So I actually played the day through my mind and worked through where I had problems, where I had issues, and how I could deal with them better. And that is what it's taught me, is how to do things this way. Not my way, because my way got me into trouble. This is listening to other people and relying on other people's experiences and actually trying them in your life. And saying, well, if this worked for them, maybe it'll work for me. Don't rely on yourself, because
it's a slippery slope. But before we wrap up, I would like to ask you a question that, of course, just brings it all together. If someone is listening today and feels like they are at a turning point, realizing that they may be contributing to their own pain, they are the problem, what is the first step that you would encourage them to take?
Reach out to a professional organization. Reach out. You cannot do this on your own. You know, I know. Reach out to people who have experience in this, and be honest with them. As hard as what it is, be honest, guys. I have 2 young gentlemen. Well, they're not that young anymore, who were in the homeless shelter a year ago. They came in a bit more, about 18 months to 2 years ago. They both entered the homeless shelter. But they listened. They opened up. They spoke. And they listened to what was being said and put it to work in their own lives. And in January this year, they both moved to a place of safety in town. They're both employed, working, but they attend meetings every week. Don't get complacent, because complacency will kill you. So the minute you're complacent, I can do this. Or there's this old saying, if you sit for long enough in a barber shop, you're going to have a haircut.
Yeah.
So don't play with your life. Reach out to people who know what they're doing and talk. And it helps. It works.
Peter, thank you for both your honesty and, of course, your infinite wisdom. And for showing that accountability isn't about shame, but it's rather about reclaiming your power as an individual. So for anyone who is listening and you feel called to look inward, please do know that it is possible, and as Peter has reiterated, you do not have to do it alone. So in the bio, you'll see a link to the NA organization's information. Please feel free to reach out as they offer amazing support. As you can see, we're celebrating 10 years of sobriety. Congratulations once again. But until next time, everybody, take care of yourself and remember to be kind as you grow.